Hey, what's going on, everybody? Desir here with another Cosmic Crucible defense update for you. Before we get into this video, make sure that you do like the video if this is something that you are interested in, and make sure that you do subscribe to the channel. I just hit 500 subs and I'm pushing for that 1000 mark as my next goal. So please do that, and now let's get into this video. Week 4 just finished up and we have 3 weeks left to go, so I want to get this video out there, show you what I'll be doing on defense, and still give you a few other defensive options if you're interested in doing that. To start off, the Cabal team, as far as plug and play characters that you can fit in there, I still have the same listed as before. King and Titania work great if you're able to not need Masters of Evil for another team. Morgan and Agatha's really good if you end up facing a pretty high Mystic team, so that way Morgan can get that extra turn meter. Omega Red and Emma are still pretty good plug and play characters that you can fit in with them, especially now that we know Emma is going to be needed for that upcoming trial. Lizard and Vulture is still my favorite team that you can use with them. The way that Vulture can get that extra turn meter on spawn if you're going against a hero heavy team like the Secret Defenders that I keep using them on, and if you need to, you're able to plug Archangel in instead of Vulture and still get very similar results. So that makes it pretty good to where you can use Vulture either with the Superior 6 team or the Cabal team. Let's go ahead, take a look at stage 1, and I'll show you what I'll be doing on defense and a few other defensive options as well. For stage 1 full house, I plan to use the top left option here. That's going to be Black Knight with the 2-piece Tangled Web, Gambit, and Rogue. The team I was using previously was the one below that, which was Black Knight, Captain America, Phoenix, Gambit, and Rogue. That team did very well for me this past week. However, I wanted to separate Captain America and use the full out of time team minus Black Knight in a different room to try to kill some efficiency points. The Tangled Web option will make it to where you still need to invest a high caliber team to take this out, and I'll be able to try to suck efficiency out elsewhere. Other really good options in stage 1 is going to be the Black Knight with the Extreme X-Men, or the Black Knight with the Sinister or Superior 6 team. Because I do plan to use the Extreme X-Men in that stage 3 still, I'm not going to use that team here. The Black Knight with the Superior 6 team or the Superior Knights, that team takes a very high invested team as well. However, you are putting all your eggs in one basket, which is why I'm not too big of a fan of that one in here. For stage 2 Radon Crucible, I plan to use the Spider Society team. The reason for this is because there are so few counters with them right now, and the counters usually involve a high invested team. Usually it's going to be something that involves the Super Scroll or Apocalypse, so if I can pull that from another room, that's going to be a huge win for me. The only other option would be the Hive Mind team with the Spider-Man Pavitra. Because most people are using the Spider Society on defense right now, that usually means that they're not able to use that option, which means that they will be using that Super Scroll or Apocalypse on this team and not another room. Some of the other options that I like would be the Pegasus, the Extreme X-Men with Rogue, or that Bifrost with the Deathpool if you do have them built fairly high. Out of these options, if you're able to use the Pegasus, I think that would be the next best option, because the X-Men are so good in that stage 1 and stage 3 that you can break them up and have 2 strong teams over there. So I would recommend Pegasus in stage 2 if you don't have the Spider Society team or you plan to use them elsewhere. For stage 3 Aggroed, the team I used to use was the 4-piece Extreme X-Men with Dorm, and that was a very tricky matchup because if you ended up killing some of the characters, they do come back unless you get the Kang Ultimate off for the permakill, which is a very high finesse matchup. If you end up failing that matchup, when you go back in, that Sunspot's going to make it a whole lot more difficult for you, and I had a couple people not clear that room because the team starts with that full energy, so they would be ulting you on turn 1. I definitely recommend using that team here. However, I'm going to be pulling Dorm off of this team, and I want to test out a different team on stage 4. So for this week, I'm going to test out that 4-piece Extreme X-Men, and I'm going to add Phoenix in there. She's going to give them a little bit more health and a little bit more damage, so that's going to make it a little bit more tricky, I'm hoping. If this ends up not working, I might pull Dorm back over to this team and figure something else out. Some of the other options that I like is if you have a high built Bishop, the 4-piece Extreme X-Men with Bishop, it's a really good option because you have that pre-taunt in there. If you want, you might be able to use like maybe a zombie Juggernaut, or if you have a high built Drax or Red Guardian, you can maybe slot them in there. Having that pre-taunt kind of throws the match off because you have to use the full Masters of Evil team, so that way you can actually get the vulnerables on people. So you can't really sub anybody out to put Echo in. The other option was that Quicksilver with Unlimited and Spider-Man Noir. That's still a pretty good team in here. It could be a little bit of tricky for RNG purposes. Spider-Man Noir would go, and then Quicksilver can either get that speed up or offense up, causing some assist to happen very early. And if Quicksilver does get that speed up, he is able to one-shot somebody depending on who you bring in. So that's a pretty good option as well if you want to go with that route. For stage 4, I didn't really have any luck when I had Black Order in there. I think if you have maybe a 2.5, 2.7, all the way up to 3 million Black Order, that could be a good play. However, mine is about 2 million, and New Warriors gave up way too many efficiency points when they would be used against them. So my plan right now is to actually use that 4-piece Out of Time and Dorm. My round 3 opponent from last week, Bonsai, used that team, and it was a very good efficiency sync, almost up there with the Infinity Watch. So my plan is to try to drain more efficiency instead of getting defensive wins. A couple other options that I've noticed work really well in here is that 4-piece Extreme X-Men with Black Knight. 4-piece Out of Time, including Black Knight and Dorm, is another really good option. Or doing the Black Knight with that Superior 6 team that we talked about in stage 1. All of those are very good options that's going to drain very high efficiency from your opponent. So I would pick one of these options unless you do have that about 3 million Black Order team that's built very high. Then that's a very good option. If you are in a lower bracket of Cosmic Crucible, Black Order, I don't know if you'd actually have them built up unless you get maybe the Time Heist, and that kind of gets you ahead of the curve, then that could be a decent option. But otherwise, I would focus more on the meta teams like this. For stage 5, I'm going to stick with the Infinity Watch in here. The reason for that is because they are a high efficiency team that will kind of give up not a lot of points to your opponent. The only way that they really give up so many points is if your opponent actually uses the Apocalypse in here to eliminate that safeguard, and then they will be able to give up a lot of points for you. That's why I'm trying to spread out my defense so much to where they need to pick and choose where they're going to use their big teams, such as the Cabal, Superior 6, Apocalypse, and Super Skrull. So if they end up using Apocalypse here to try to get that high efficiency, then they can't use that against my Black Knight team and so forth. So I'm trying to spread it out to where I'm not so much going for defensive wins, because in the Masters bracket, you might be lucky to get that one defensive win. Otherwise, it's going down to efficiency. And some of my opponents got all the way up to about the 50,190 plus points. So I'm trying to keep them down to about the 170 range. That's going to be a more realistic number, so that way I can go for my one-shots as well and try to out-efficiency them. So that's my game plan for this week. Some of the other good options in here would be Spider Society, actually. I had the 4-piece in here and I had a 5-piece in here before, and they do very well. They usually pull a defensive win for me, but I want to keep that in that stage 2, so that way they're forced to use either Super Skrull or Apocalypse on there. The Extreme X-Men with Rogue and Black Knight is a very good option in stage 5 as well. Black Knight's retaliates are unavoidable, so that way, even if he's blind, he's still able to do those punishing blows to the opponent. The Secret Defenders with Morgan and Dorm is a good option here as well. However, they seem to be the team that's staying in the stage 6 throughout this whole season, but this is another option where you can actually put that team. For stage 6 Crossroads, there really aren't a lot of options that's gonna change throughout this season right now, it looks like. The Secret Defenders seem to be the king of this room, and that usually will pull a Cabal team or a Secret Defenders team, depending what goes with it. If you don't have enough in here, then the New Warriors will counter it. So that's why I'm sticking with that Morgan and Emma as the other 2 options in here. If you want, you can pull the Dorm in here, but it honestly gets you about the same amount of points as if you throw Emma in as the 5th option. Just make sure that you separate Morgan and Ghost Rider Robbie on the ends, so that way they have to pick and choose which one they want to try to control and take out first. If you want, you could go for the 4-piece with Spider-Man Noir, or you can go for the Out of Time team, that 4-piece, and throw Robbie in there. That was another good option. I actually faced that and it was a pretty interesting ride. Hopefully these defensive options I gave you will help you out in this upcoming week of Cosmic Crucible. There are 3 weeks left, and when the next season comes out, that Mercs for Money team is probably going to be the highlight of there, and I have a lot of good theory crafting that we can do with that, so I'll be sure to put videos out with that as well. I also do plan to do a deep dive into the Mercs for Money kit by removing some of the war features and seeing how they can actually plug and play into Cosmic Crucible. The results are actually pretty surprising when I was looking at it. If you did like this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, have a wonderful rest of the day.